Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Identifying Your Risk and Potential for Spread of Grapevine Red Blotch Virus workshop. Today we'll be looking at protecting against GRBV. So you may be wondering, why do we need to protect against GRBV in our vineyard? And to start, I just want to reintroduce what is GRBV. GRBV stands for Grapevine Red Blotch Virus, which is the causal agent of grapevine red blotch disease. It causes symptoms on both the foliage and fruits of cultivated grapevines, and it can have a substantial economic impact for growers. Once a grapevine is infected with GRBV, there is no cure. So we want to tackle in this workshop how to mitigate that infection. Furthermore, we do see secondary spread of GRBV. It is vectored by a tree hopper species, Spicistolus festinus, the three-cornered alfalfa hopper. So we're going to jump into that as well. To start off, let's jump into a quick activity about certification programs. Through this, you'll get 4 true or false questions. Jot down what you think the answer is, and we'll go over them at the end. Best of luck! How do you think you did? Looking at question 1, a certification program is designed to create and propagate plant material that adheres to pathogen-free criteria to help minimize the occurrence of disease in planting stock. What do you think the answer is? Do you think this is true or false? The answer is true. Establishment of desired planting material is a multi-step process. It's one which begins at the foundation of building clean planting stock, and we do this through the National Clean Plant Network, or NCPN. Here, candidate materials are subjected to a series of testing panels targeting viruses, viroids, bacteria, and phytoplasmas. Plants that pass this diagnostic make up the foundation, or G1 block. This is the first generation of planting. Now, within this NCPN foundation block, really only 2 to 4 plants in each accession are being maintained. To help in meeting the demands of planting stock, materials from the foundation block are distributed to grape nurseries that will make up the G2 second generation population. These are known as increased blocks. We'll see a similar standard take place through the third generation, G3, and the fourth, G4. This process helps us to maximize the supply of pathogen-tested plants that'll eventually then make it to the nursery block. This process of increasing planting material through grafting, pathogens are tested for. This usually fluctuates seasonally depending on what your target pathogen is. As long as the materials are passing those criteria, they can then be marketed and sold as certified clean planting stock. This generally brings us into question 2. All vines sold on market are certified. The answer to this is a little tricky, but it is false. Specific nurseries will have certified clean planting stock available that is passed direct criteria set up by that given state. There are currently 5 states that work with the NCPN. These are Oregon and Washington, which have a joint program now, Missouri, California, as well as New York. Each state will have slightly different pathogens of target, so be aware of that when you're looking to purchase clean planting stock. Looking at question 3, certified planting stock means virus-free. This also is false. Each state, as previously mentioned, has specific criteria that they are targeting. This does not include all viruses, but it does heavily include viruses. For example, here in New York, we target against 5 different viruses. These are tomato ring spot virus, tobacco ring spot virus, grapevine fan leaf virus, grapevine red blotch virus, and grapevine leaf roll associated virus. When we go about our testing for these, new leaves are collected in the spring for the nipoviruses listed here on the left, and old leaves are collected in the fall for grapevine and red blotch. This helps us to make sure that we are adhering to those standards, but as mentioned previously, not all states have the same standards. To verify, reach out to those nurseries selling certified stock that will be listed as certified stock on their websites, or if you have more questions, do reach out to your local Department of Agriculture. Looking at the fourth and final question now. Certified materials are tissue cultured, making them weak producers in the vineyard. Now, this seems to be a question that comes up a lot, and there seems to be a lot of discrepancies with it, but the answer is false. The utilization of tissue culture does not in any way affect the genetic makeup of a plant material. It allows us to target those undesired pathogens so that the end material is considered pathogen-free. Moving into part 2, secondary spread in the vineyard. Now, we see secondary spread of GRBV in Northern California and Southern Oregon. This is due to the presence of a flying insect vector. Currently, Spicistolus vestinus, a tree hopper species also known as the three-cornered alfalfa hopper, is the only known vector of GRBV. They are hemimetabolous and have 5 instar stages. They can be found present during summer months in Northern California vineyards, but for example, say here in New York, we do not see them in our vineyards. They are not considered an economic pest of grape, and they have not been observed to complete their life cycle on cultivated grapevines. This means they must be relying on additional plant species within a vineyard ecosystem. Transmission of GRBV by Spicistolus vestinus is circulative, non-propagative. What this means is that the virus is non-replicating within the insect, but when Spicistolus vestinus feeds on an infected plant material, GRBV is ingested, it moves to the midgut of the insect, it crosses the barrier into the hemolymph, or essentially the blood of the insect, and then is carried to the salivary glands. Once in the salivary glands of Spicistolus vestinus, GRBV is transmissible via the salivary canal in the stylet during feeding. Spicistolus vestinus can transmit GRBV from Vitis species, including free-living vines. However, we see differential rates in a greenhouse setting based on the donor and recipient host materials. Free-living vines, we see a higher rate of transmission by Spicistolus vestinus in comparison to cultivated grapevines. Furthermore, I want to highlight that transmission by Spicistolus vestinus is transstadial, meaning that it can persist through molting of the insect. However, it is not transovarial, meaning a mother cannot pass it to her offspring. All in all, when we look at Spicistolus vestinus as a vector, we consider them to be an inefficient one. The reasoning for this is that in greenhouse settings, from cultivated grapevine to cultivated grapevine, we see a transmission rate of about 10%. When we take this to the vineyard setting, we see a 3 to 10% rate of transmission. These are very low rates of transmission by an insect vector. So moving forward, based on everything we've covered in this video, what can you do to protect against GRBV? The best and most sustainable way to protect is to start with certified clean planting stock. This means you're starting off with a clean slate, you're automatically reducing that source of inoculum. This will then play a role when you consider secondary spread. Spicistolus vestinus is an inefficient vector of GRBV, and it is for this reason that we don't recommend targeting them in treatment or spraying for them in any way, shape, or form. With that, we wrap up this part 2 of this workshop series. We thank you for joining, and we do suggest that you reach out if you have any questions or clarifications that you may need. We hope that you're finding these workshops informative, and again, thank you for joining, and have a great day.